Previously on Scorned and Served. Marcus trusted David for 3 years. He built something that could have changed the company, a $2 million idea, handed over willingly, and David presented every word of it as his own. Marcus went home that night and did not explode. He opened a notebook, he wrote the date, and he started building something David would never see coming. This is part 2. It started at 4 a.m. Most people, when they have been wronged, they lie awake thinking about it, replaying the moment, imagining conversations, getting angrier. Marcus did none of that. He was already at work. He had kept every single email he had ever sent or received in 3 years at that company. Every one. Not because he suspected anything, just because Marcus was the kind of person who kept things, organized, time-stamped, labeled. The kind of habit that most people never need, and that Marcus was now very grateful for. The earliest email was from 18 months ago, a message Marcus had sent to himself. Subject line, draft, vendor restructure proposal, version 1. He had been doing this since the beginning. Every time he worked on the proposal, every new version, every revised figure, every updated timeline, he emailed a copy to himself. Not to protect himself, just to back up his work. And when he opened David's company-wide email, the one announcing the Axon Efficiency Framework, and placed it side by side with his own saved drafts, the match was not close. It was exact. Same structure, same phasing, same vendor categorization model, same projected savings figures, down to the decimal point. David had not adapted the work. He had not built on it. He had copied it, word for word. Marcus printed both documents. He laid them on the kitchen table. He took a red pen, and for the next 2 hours, he went line by line, every matching sentence, every identical figure, every piece of language that could only have come from the proposal he had handed to David. He marked each one. By the time he finished, there were 47 separate instances. 47. He didn't feel angry. He felt something much more useful. He felt certain. He went to work the next morning like nothing had happened. Same time, same desk, same routine. David walked past at 9:15 and gave him the usual nod. Marcus nodded back. Here's the thing about people like David. They assume that because they have the power, they have the safety. They assume that the person they wronged is either too broken to fight back or too smart to try. They never consider the third option, the person who is neither broken nor deterred, the person who is simply patient. Marcus spent 3 days preparing his HR submission. He did not write it in anger. He wrote it like a lawyer, chronological, evidenced, referenced. He documented the original proposal dates. He included the email timestamps showing when he sent David every file. He included the version history showing the document evolution was entirely his. He included David's company-wide email alongside his own original draft, with the 47 matching sections flagged and numbered, 14 pages, 9 attachments, submitted to HR on a Thursday morning at 8:47 a.m. He received an automated acknowledgement at 8:49, and then nothing for 11 days. 11 days of complete silence from HR. No acknowledgement beyond the automated one. No request for a meeting. No follow-up email asking for clarification. Nothing. Marcus had worked in enough companies to know 11 days of silence on a formal misconduct submission is not an accident. It is a message. On day 12, he got the meeting. not because HR was ready, because Marcus had sent a follow-up email, polite, professional, CC'd to the company's general counsel. The meeting was scheduled within 4 hours of that email. There were two of them, the HR director, a woman named Carol, and her deputy. Marcus had never met the deputy before. That detail bothered him slightly. You don't bring a witness to a meeting unless you are expecting a confrontation, or unless you are planning to deliver something the other person won't like. Carol opened the meeting by thanking Marcus for raising his concerns. She used the word concerns twice in the first minute. Not complaint, not submission, not evidence. Concerns, Marcus noticed. She told him that the company had reviewed his submission, that they took all formal complaints. She corrected herself. All formal concerns, very seriously, that an internal review had been conducted. Marcus asked who conducted the review. She said it was an internal panel. He asked who was on the panel. She said that information was confidential. He asked whether David Hargreaves had been informed of the submission before the review concluded. A pause, just a fraction too long. Yes, she said. He had been notified as required by process. Marcus asked when. Another pause. Day 3, she said. Day 3. They told David on day 3. And the review, the supposedly independent internal review, concluded on day 9. David had 6 days to prepare his response before Marcus had even been contacted. Carol then told him the outcome of the review. She said the evidence was, and this is the word she used, inconclusive. Inconclusive. Not that Marcus was wrong, not that the evidence didn't exist, not that the timestamps were fabricated. Inconclusive, which means we looked at what you gave us, and we have decided not to see it. Carol then slid a document across the table. Non-disclosure agreement. She said the company was prepared to offer Marcus a discretionary goodwill payment. He would find the figure on page 3, in recognition of the stress this situation had caused. And in exchange, Marcus would agree not to discuss the matter with any colleague, external party, or legal representative. Marcus looked at the document. He looked at the figure on page 3. He looked back at Carol, and he said 7 words. I'll need to consult my legal representative. The slightest pause from Carol. Not quite alarm, not quite surprise, but something. She said, of course. She said the offer had a 7-day window. Marcus thanked her for her time. He picked up his folder, the one he had brought. He had not opened it once during the meeting. He stood up, buttoned his jacket, and walked out. He had an appointment with an employment lawyer the following Tuesday. Her name was Priya Nair. 14 years of experience in workplace intellectual property disputes. Marcus had found her himself. He had not asked anyone at the company for a recommendation. He had not mentioned the appointment to a single colleague. He had paid the initial consultation fee out of his own pocket, and he had told nobody. Priya read through everything without speaking for 11 minutes. Marcus had timed it. When she finally looked up, she said 3 words. This is solid. She told him the timestamp evidence was particularly strong. She said the company's decision to notify David on day 3 of a supposedly confidential HR review was a significant procedural breach. She said the NDA and the goodwill payment, offered before any independent investigation had been conducted, looked very much like an attempt to limit liability. And then she said something that changed everything. She said, Marcus, this proposal, did it generate revenue? He said yes. The company had approved it. full budget, active implementation. She looked at him over her reading glasses. Then this isn't just about credit, she said. This is about compensation. You created intellectual property that the company is now actively using to generate savings. Property that was taken from you without consent, without attribution, and without remuneration. That is not an HR matter. That is a legal one. Marcus had gone into that office thinking about his reputation, about being believed, about having his name restored to work that was his. He had not gone in thinking about money, but Priya had just told him, in 14 years of doing this, that when intellectual property is misappropriated and actively monetized by the company that stole it, the compensation claims she had seen awarded ranged between 40,000 and 400,000 pounds. Marcus sat with that for a long moment. Then he asked her, "What's the first step?" she told him. "Don't sign the NDA. Don't respond to HR. Don't discuss this with anyone at the company. And," she paused, "start documenting everything David does in the next 30 days. Every interaction, every email, every meeting. Because in her experience, when someone like David is told his theft has been formally reported and not resolved, he makes mistakes." Marcus walked out of that meeting a different kind of dangerous than when he walked in, because now he had something David didn't know about: a lawyer, a legal strategy, and 30 days to watch David Hargreaves make exactly the kind of mistakes that people make when they think they've already won. In part 3, David finds out about the lawyer, and he does not take it well. There is a meeting Marcus was not invited to, an email that was accidentally sent to the wrong person, and a conversation between David and the CEO that Marcus was never supposed to hear. Part 3 drops tomorrow, and if you are watching this thinking, "This could never happen to me," I want you to sit with something before you go. Marcus did not set out to destroy David Hargreaves. He set out to be believed. He set out to have his name on work that belonged to him. The destruction, that came later. And it came because David left him no other option. If someone has ever taken credit for your work, or if you've ever watched someone get rewarded for something that wasn't theirs, drop a comment below. Tell me what they took. Just one line. Because I think this comment section is going to say something that a lot of people in your life have never let you say out loud.